Welcome to Aberfeldy Live, our half offline, half online talk show. We're just about to get this show on the road, and you can see the road. There is Aberfeldy Street there in the background, and we've just got a 309 coming past. Hello, Nor, how are you? No, two. And we've got George joining, and Stephen, welcome. So thanks, guys, for joining. And you can see us out on the street as well. Say hi, people on the street. Hello. Does anyone want to sort of jump on the mic on the streets just to say hi, just to test it out for us? Danny, do you want to come forward? Go to the pink mic. This is very experimental, so say something.
Oh, yes.
Is that? Can you hear that, people? Oh, and we've got.
Not that well.
Not that well. Okay. Was it too low,
okay.
or was it quiet or peaky?
I think I can hear him ambiently through Margot's
Okay,
mic.
maybe are you okay? Have you got channel 1 turned up, Margot? Where are you?
I'm here. So channel 1 is up.
Okay, say something again. Danny, come on, that's you.
Yeah. No, can anyone hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
It's better. Okay, all right, we're good. So,
Okay, hang on. You're very, very loud, so I'm just going to turn you down. Hang on a little bit.
Always technical issue.
Which one is it? First. No, Mark.
That's good.
who's loud, Margot?
Everyone. Kane was very loud and you were very
Okay,
loud.
so just turn down the main volume on that speaker.
Okay. Main volume on the speaker coming right up.
Okay, all right, let's get this road on the show anyway. We can deal with the
show on the road.
we can deal with the things. Well, I mean, the people that know Talkaoke kind of know. We've got some first timers here as well. Kind of know the score. That it's just what do people want to talk about? Has anyone got any thoughts, comments, suggestions, ideas, interventions? Come to. You got something to say?
Statues?
What was that, Kane?
Statues?
Statues? You want to talk about statues? What do you want to say about statues?
I love them.
Do you love them?
Move, they go, don't travel.
Yeah.
You can't hear Danny properly again.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit.
Okay, Danny, come again.
I said they cause no trouble. They just stand there all day.
Yeah.
And then they get taken down afterwards.
Okay, so is it the statue's fault that it gets taken down? Danny loves the statue.
No, it's all this activism. That's what the fault is on there.
Okay.
You got to try and do another way of getting your point across, because tearing down statues ain't going to achieve anything. Only make everyone angry, really.
Okay, so. Okay, well, we can't
Mikey,
do.
I'm the people speak again. I'm going to have to log out and come back in.
That would be good, yeah. Okay, we've got a few new faces on the Zoom chat. So let's just say hello to everybody here. As you know, basically, David, I see you're sporting a lockdown beard now. But at the moment we're talking about statues, and Danny's pointed out that statues have not done anyone any harm, and should the activism be addressed at statues, or should it be addressed in other places? So that's the conversation that's on the table at the moment. Anyone else got any views on that?
Yes, why don't we have more? Should we just not have more statues of contemporary people? I mean, as long as they're not divisive contemporary people. Is that not the resolution?
Statues
Maybe we need to turn over our statues more frequently, like.
Okay, or maybe you could have like a sort of update, like a Mr. Potato Man that you could update gradually. You know, so it doesn't have to be the same person. So you've got the same basic body, but then you just update the features as you go along.
What, a little bit like Madame Tussauds?
Is that what they do at Madame Tussauds? Do they melt people down?
They do. They melt people down and they make them into new people.
I didn't know that.
No.
Yeah, they do. It can be quite tragic.
Wow. Okay, George, have you got any views on that?
Or the melting down. There's definitely
Yeah,
meltdown.
well, statues as a whole.
Well, I like the idea.
Minutes. I'm just going perfect.
I like the idea of contemporary statues. I think we do need more contemporary statues.
Who would you make a statue to?
Well, how about Tommy Flowers? He needs one.
Tommy Flowers, okay? Because not everyone here is going to know who Tommy Flowers is. So can you just give us a quick spiel about who Tommy Flowers is?
Wow. Okay. So, to the best of my knowledge, Tommy Flowers worked in the for the Allies doing some decoding during World War II, and he also did a lot of work at Dollis Hill in the first automated telephone exchanges, which is actually how I know about him. That may come as a surprise or not.
Okay. So he was an engineer, and he helped to. What was his main achievement?
You know what? I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to put that out there to find out if anyone else knows. But it was basically an engineer that helped the wartime decoding effort.
Yes.
Would he be a good person to have a statue to? We're talking about statues. Anyone on the outside got any views on statues? Is it the right place
there's one more thing, right?
To direct activism?
I think statues should have an expiration date.
What? Say that again?
I think it wouldn't be ridiculous for statues to have an expiration date. I mean,
Okay, like a best before.
because they become less relevant over time.
Okay.
Yeah, you just melt it and you make another one.
Yeah. I mean, what about this Mr. Potato Head idea where you can update the statue, just change it? Would that work as a way to keep everybody? David, have you got any views? What were you saying?
I said you just melt it and you do another one. So you just do a new cast once a month.
Yeah, just keep doing it. And in a way, if you kept on having new statues, you'd keep a lot more work out there for artists, wouldn't you?
Definitely. Or
Yeah.
you look at the citizen of the month or the citizen of the year. And
You could have a citizen of the month. Would that work?
oh, yeah.
Any views on this? Nora, have you got any views? Let me just unmute them, Nora, if you can.
Are we talking about statues?
Yeah. Oh, we've got.
We've got.
Yeah, let me just bring Nora in, and then we'll come out onto the street.
Okay, I'll sit down.
Nora, you just need to unmute yourself there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hello.
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 Yeah, I guess if it was temporary, probably it would keep people kind of motivated to get themselves there in some way. And
Yeah.
have people kind of pushed by this idea of being in a position of, I don't know, like being idolized or being recognized in some way, rather than having these statues that have been there for centuries representing things that we don't actually know, I think.
Yeah.
And that from what we can see, probably to some people carry some other kind of emotional attachments to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So you like this? You like this Citizen of the Month
Yeah,
idea?
I think that's good. It keeps some sort of flow and some sort of rolling with
Yeah.
like that.
Have you got an idea of who might be Citizen of the Month for this month?
Ooh.
Any thoughts?
I nominate you, Mikey.
Me? Oh,
You, yes. you.
me. Okay. Well, I think we've got some stock images of statues of Mikey that maybe we could throw in. Rick, remember from the Basildon one. Rick's shaking his head. Rick doesn't like the idea. Have we got anything on the street? Any thoughts out there on the street? Yep.
Yes, we do have some views from the street. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm maybe asking you this question a lot, many times. You can probably see just a silhouette of me. That's all you need to see.
Yeah, that'll do.
We've got Loretta with us. Okay, so there's going to be more silhouette action, I can guarantee. But in the meantime, we've got Loretta. Do you want to come on and give us your views on the statues?
Okay. Hello.
Go ahead.
We're talking about statues.
Yeah.
I like playing musical statues. So we play now?
Okay.
Oh, I love that.
But think about what happened with the statues in the revolt. That's terrible, do you not think? What about history?
What statues? What statues are you talking
Well,
about?
what was it? That was Winston Churchill. But come on, we have to remain with history.
Okay, so you think we shouldn't be knocking down the statue of Winston Churchill?
Oh, that's my phone, I'm sorry.
All right, okay, well, that's a good point. Thank you. What do other people think? Winston Churchill? Is it revolting to revolt against the statues? That's what some people are saying, but some people favour a more contemporary approach. Can we somehow mix these two views together?
Would you be allowed to decorate statues?
Should you be what like so as well as a kind of Mr. Potato Head style statue, you could also have a kind of like colour it in sort of statue as well, or a kind a blank. Yeah.
Because they put a what's it called, a mullet on Winston Churchill, didn't they, back a long time ago?
Yeah. It was more of a Mohican, wasn't it? Yeah.
Pardon?
Wasn't it a Mohican?
Yeah, a Mohican rather than a mullet.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like made out of a sod of grass or something?
Yeah, it was made out of a piece of turf.
Yeah.
So you think things like that should be allowed, turfing the head of statues, etc.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe with more divisive figures, ones that maybe you don't want to remove, but that you know you have to accept that some people might not respect the individual quite so much.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like, I'm just gonna mute a few people off there, but anyone on the online got a view about this? Should it be colour in your own statue? Should it be decorate your own statue? What do people outside think? Any thoughts on it? Any thoughts? Yeah. Any thoughts? Come to the mic. Yeah, come to the mic.
We've got Reese here, and we were having a little conversation with Reese about statues, but I feel like maybe
tell us what you
it's time to
think.
take them publicly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about Winston Churchill. So you think people are not going to targeting them no more?
Yes, my view on statues in general, not just the Winston Churchill, but in general, is I feel like they shouldn't, like certain statues shouldn't be up. Like the majority of statues that represent slave masters and stuff, I believe they shouldn't be up. However, I feel like just taking the statues down isn't going to change anything. Like we need to refocus our energy to trying to change government policies rather than these symbolic taking down statues. Like regardless of whether you think they should be up or not.
Does it help? Does it help at least help the campaign, or do you think it? Because Danny was saying it kind of distracts from the main campaign. But what do you think? Does it help or does it distract?
I feel like the reason why it's been promoted so much is as a distraction tool. I feel like the government and the media likes to use things to distract people anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like because there are other movements towards changing policies, but the statues are the ones that's being publicised.
In a way, it suits the government to just focus on the statues and not talk about the wider campaign.
Because statues tap into people's personal beliefs and get people angry.
Yeah.
And essentially, the government want a race war, don't they?
Yeah.
They want a race war. They don't want organisation and actual thought into changing policies. And that's not me saying, it's only the black community that has to do that. It's not. It's everyone everyone who feels like they're against the current system.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I feel like our energy the statues need to come down, but at the same time, maybe we need to organise and. Maybe.
It's not the main thing. I think that's what Reese is saying. It's not the main thing. The main thing is campaigning for actual change. I mean, what kind of changes would be like the most crucial thing? What would be the first, if you were Winston Churchill, what would be or the Prime Minister, what would be the first thing that you would change just to try to reduce racism in this country?
It's a systematic thing. It's a systemic thing. I'm wary of being the spokesperson. I don't want to be the spokesperson for the whole community. However, I just feel like systematically it needs to change. I can't give you... I can't say what's the first thing that needs to be changed. Because that means you're sort of prioritising one thing over another when everything just needs to change.
But I mean, if the system is corrupt, what do you do? How do you actually address it?
freedom of speech, but I think it needs to be organised. I think organisation is key.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we need people in places in power, people in certain places of power,
Yeah.
who empathise with the struggle.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who are able to actually change and are able to go to these people and say, oh look, this needs to happen, that needs to happen.
Yeah.
It's too much of it is coming from the general public, which is good to create awareness.
Yeah. So it's actually about
change.
In a way, it's about getting the right people in power, the people that have got a vision, the people that can see how to untangle this web of systemic racism. Any other views from outside about this? Any views?
So much, Reese. Anybody else? We just had a conversation about abolishing racism in the UK.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? What would be the first step to end systemic racism in the UK? If you've got any views on that, please join.
Well, my inspiration is Martin Luther King.
Why?
And Nelson Mandela. I went to Nelson Mandela's cell. I told Andre before, he always, every time he came back, the guy who used to be a prisoner, and they worked...
You can't hear anything, Margot.
Oh, go on. Yeah?
The prisoners and the ex-security people, if you want to call them that, they worked together on Robben Island, and I went there many years ago. And every time we were told, every time Nelson Mandela revisited the place, he would ask about his spoon because someone stole his spoon. What the fuck is that about?
Okay, so the spoon. Okay, so we've got a couple of new faces that have just joined. Welcome, Tim and Will. At the moment, we started off talking about statues. Should the main effort of the Black Lives Matter campaign or campaign generally against racism be addressed at statues? I think the majority of people agree that they should come down, and there's been some views about, oh, maybe we should have, instead of having like the same people on a plinth as a statue, you can have like an update. You could update it on a regular monthly basis and have the Citizen of the Month for every month. But then we sort of started. I mean, Reese said, really, actually, in a way, it's even the government themselves are now using the kind of anger and the controversy of the statues to distract against the main campaign against racism. So that's what we're talking about now, is like, how do we deal with racism? We could go back to the statues thing. It's kind of up to you. As you know, people that have been to Talkaoke before, you can take it in any direction you want to take it. So it's kind of like, where do we want to go with this? Do we want to talk? Nora, have you got a point? If you just unmute yourself again. Yeah, yeah.
No, I just wanted to add to what you were saying about kind of changing the system. And I think one of the biggest changes definitely could start from kind of introducing the real history within the education. I think that's definitely a big part that we're missing. That obviously contributed to a systematic kind of failure of people just not being aware of exactly what happened in the past, and kind of taking away that right to be aware, you know,
to make your own judgment in a way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what kind of things should be taught then in terms of education, and how can that education kind of go compared to what it is like now?
Well, I think in terms of racism, or most of the history here in UK or in Spain where I used to live had been, in terms of racism, it had been written by white people. And I think you cannot write about something that you haven't experienced yourself.
Right.
So I feel like giving them a voice to explain their own history and to transmit that to the rest of the world, I think is the first kind of...
So in a way, we need to be hearing more diverse voices of black people, and finding out what their history is from their point of view. And I guess not just not just white men that are kind of like are the generals and the sort of, but also the same sort of people are the people that tell history. What have we got views up here about history and how history, could we change education? Is Nora right about this? Is this the first step that we were looking for?
We've got a response from Reese.
Reese, come back. Tell us what you think.
Just to add on to what Nora said.
Just turn it up there, Margot.
Go on.
Just to add on to what
Oh,
Noor said.
sorry. The mic is here now. Sorry, I moved it.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just to add on to what Noor said, I feel like what's needed is an actual change in the national curriculum. And it won't happen, but at the moment, the union have got together of staff members in Tower Hamlet to create like an anti-racist
Volume up. I'm here.
Ah!
I feel like the main change. Oh, is it gone?
Sorry. Yeah, you're gonna have to. Go and say that again. I think you're up a bit louder.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like the main change would come from changing the attitudes of society, and that comes from changing the national curriculum in a very subtle way from primary school, because we've all been through the schooling system, and there's certain things. It's not just what's been explicitly taught to us in terms of only focusing on like Western history, but it's more subliminal. So it's more wordings and how we phrase things and how that needs to change in order to change that attitude.
Can you give us an example about how something is worded in a way that kind of brings across that value of racism?
Just an example, a general example. For example, in football, So there's certain football players who would always be referred to as having great physical attributes, or a very powerful player, or he's very athletic. And those comments are normally associated towards the black footballers, whereas the commentators always associate words like skillful player, very creative, towards the white football players. And that's just an example of how words can alter our attitude. Yeah. So I feel like, the curriculum needs to change.
Hang on a sec, Reese, just a technical one here. Margot, have you moved the microphone? Because it's too close to the speaker now.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, so that's a good example when it comes to, we've got these stereotypes of black and white kind of attributes. The blacks are powerful and kind of aggressive and athletic, and the whites are kind of skillful and creative. And that's just one example in football. So we've got to sort of unpick and undo these kind of very sort of subtle kind of ideas that are embedded into our culture, really. Kane, you got a point? What's your point? If you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just coming back to the question of the curriculum, I think, I mean, the issue is that history in our entire teaching is written by white men from a Western perspective. I think you have to acknowledge that it's not just black voices and black figures who are absent. It's anyone who is a minority or other. So, I think it's the same issue with the LGBT community, with representation of women, particularly in English literature. I remember at university, like the majority of the books I was reading, my English literature degree that I was made to ask, were written by white male authors. So, I think, and I guess coming back to the point, the statues they stand in for a lot. It's like both physically and metaphorically.
They're kind of like the tip of the iceberg here.
I think it's a very powerful image that has a lot that sits behind it, and that people can regardless of whether you think it's right or wrong to have, I mean, the issue with Edward Colston has been something that's long standing. I mean, irregardless if you think it's right or wrong to remove the statue, it starts a dialogue and a conversation about something that's far bigger.
Okay, so the statue might not be that relevant, but it does get this. I mean, it has got our conversation going, for example, and the statue has brought into this discussion about more systemic racism and how to unpick some of these really entrenched kind of values that we've got in our society. Will, I saw you had a hand up there. Was that just testing the hands up thing because you put it down again,
No. I just thought it was interesting, the point that was made about language and how it's used. And I'm thinking back to a lot of campaigns that were done sort of quite recently, 5-6 years ago, on the language we used to talk about females and women and girls and gender. I know there was a campaign, Like a Girl, where they challenged everybody's thought process when they said you throw like a girl or you run like a girl. It was used as such a derogatory thing. And I think we need to start some conversations about how we use certain words and attribute them to race in society. And I think, it's been mentioned a lot by people like Kay and the gentleman outside, but absolutely ingrain it into the curriculum. But I suppose the question is, at what stage do we start to integrate it into the curriculum, and at what levels? Because if it's just children, do we need to apply this to adults as well? Is there going to be classes and...
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a really good point, because like the curriculum and education's only really going to affect the very, very young. How do you change the majority of society that's been through school? Do you get the parents to sort of pick some of these things up? I just want to say hello as well to a couple of people that have joined, both consuming beverages and foods, and welcome Amit and Eva. At the moment, we sort of started talking about statues, and it was about different ideas really for statues. Should you have kind of modular statues like Mr. Potato Head, where you can kind of change the face every month to reflect who the citizen of the month is? And then it's a question really about, is the focus on statues, because there was some kind of feeling that the focus on statues was like a distraction to almost kind of avoid having a bigger, deeper discussion about racism in our society. So then really we started talking about, well, what is this racism? Is it about like stereotypes about, for example, about black men in football? The black footballers are always the athletic, powerful, aggressive footballers, and then the skillful, intelligent, creative ones are the white players. So that's just one example of a kind of embedded racism. And does the government want to actually have a discussion about how racism can be addressed? And then we start talking about history. Should we be hearing from lots of diverse voices about history? And yeah, you probably heard the last few things. That's where we are right now. Any thoughts out on the street?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. To turn yourself up.
You should probably hear me now. Yeah, is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to bring in Asha, but she just disappeared off. Oh, she's coming back. So Asha, do you want to jump in and give us some views? We're talking about racism, but also I kind of wondered, because you're local.
Yeah.
Are there any statues that would be more welcome, or would be welcome in this area?
They used to be, but now it's changing, but still it's going on.
Asha, come a bit closer to the mic.
Your microphone.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
You okay?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So you think, so in terms of racism here, like in the area, how is it?
I lived 36 years in this area. Before I moved here, it was a lot of the white people. It's a lot of the little black people. It's not. Then after it's changing, coming, Asian coming, black coming, everybody coming. But my kids, when they start clothing school, my son stayed one now. When he started, kids used to call him, go back home, go back home. And he bought here, he didn't understand. He was 6 years, and he looked at me and said, Mom, where's home?
Yeah.
I just broke down 6 years how you can explain this whole situation. I say, home is here for you, but where mom and dad come from in different way. But it's your home here, you born here. Yeah. I got called names because I'm Muslim, the religion and everything, but sometimes it's not too much, but some racism going on, but some people sometimes they use an excuse. If you tell me now I come from Somalia, you call me, you don't even know my name, and you say that's Somali woman. Yeah. It's not you racist, you're just saying it because you don't know my name, where I come from. But it's better we all getting along. Black, white, anybody, there should be people getting along. We got a lot of things going on in the world now, but the people not.
So what do you think, Asha, what do you think the best way? We talked a lot about education. Do you agree with that? The
It's
education.
education. It's that people don't even have education, but by nice people. It's the good hearts, and you're not feeling somebody down, wherever he look like or wherever he is or where he come from. It's not. It's necessary. It's a necessary.
Okay, so I mean, is it like a deliberate kind of? Because I
It's
think
the people. Yeah, don't people just hate people, and maybe person talk about other people or other calling other names. This person is not himself. Is not good feeling good himself. Then he take out that blame and put other person blame. And but that's not nice either.
Okay, so there's a certain, in a way, what I'm getting from that is a certain sense of superiority going on. Okay, what I want to do is put that out there. We're talking about racism and actually as well, the sort of like personal experience of racism in the area. Asha, get yourself a drink if you want. We've got some drinks out there.
It's freely distributed around here.
But where do we go with this? Is it just good enough? Nora, have you got a point there? Yeah, let me come to you. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. No, I just wanted to share because just yesterday, actually, I was watching a documentary, very interesting, about a teacher called Jane Elliott. It's maybe you've heard about her, but she did an experiment. I think it was in the 70s. With her class where all of the kids were white, but some of them had blue eyes, the other had brown eyes. Yeah. And she did an experiment which they were happy to participate in. And it's really interesting to see their reactions when she started to divide the class. And it even showed the proof of how dividing the class and treating the different kids differently depending on just the color of their eyes also affected their performance. So they were having different results within the same activities from one day to another, performing certain activities with more speed on one day and others with less time, just because of this kind of way they were feeling, because of this division that they were having. It's really, really interesting.
But I mean, what
the divided class, if anybody wants to
yeah, it sounds like a really. I mean, if you can find it and put a link in the chat, that would be great.
Oh, I will do. I have it. I will.
Yeah. Do. Okay. Cool. But what do you draw from that as a sort of that kind of shows you how easy it is to divide people and make some people feel less worthy than others. But I mean,
and also affecting it influences the future in a way because you know, when you feel like you can't achieve. In a way, it's limiting how much you can contribute. And I think on a systematic level, and then it's kind of limiting all of the things everybody can contribute as their own being. So
I mean, we really are, just by projecting our expectations on people, actually shaping their futures. Yeah. But what is the answer to that? What is the sort of, how do we stop these kind of things from happening? That in a way gives us a way to how we can understand how to make racism worse, but how do we make it better? How do we actually kind of diminish that kind of division between people? How do we actually address this? Any views outside? Any thoughts? Yeah, we've got some. Oh, Reese, you're back. Okay.
Yes, we've got Reese, and I also have a point from Danny, which is a little bit broadly about history, but we'll talk about that. But you, Reese, wanted to comment on something what Noor said. She was about the experiment.
The experiment.
What was your question, Mikey? Could you repeat that?
Well, it's just kind of, that experiment is very revealing how you can just take an arbitrary difference between, and the skin colour is an arbitrary difference as well. But you can just take any arbitrary difference and divide a class, and they will almost follow that pattern of what the teacher tells them, you know, they will be able to do.
Yeah.
And I was saying, it's a really good example, but it just shows us how easy it is to divide people. But how do you unite people? How do you diminish some of these expectations, negative expectations?
I feel like the responsibility will fall heavily on the white community. I feel like it's part of their. It's not because so far what's happening is when any sort of instance of racism occurs, and not talking about systematic, but when blatant racism occurs, it's only like the black and ethnic minority people who seem to jump in and say you shouldn't say that, that shouldn't be said, or they might not even say anything. But I think a lot of the duty does fall on the white community to check those who do like to make racist comments, or even those who are implementing certain systems of racism within their company. I think the duty falls on all of us to check these people. And I feel like when we start checking these people, and when we start making it so they don't have a space to be racist, then the blatant racism will stop.
So white people need to be more proactive and call out.
Just check one another.
Yeah.
Even to the point of when you're sitting at home together, maybe that's the safest space, right? At home, you can say anything, no one's gonna really know. But even then, someone could just be like, "Oh, mum, don't say that. You can't say that because of this, that."
You have to hold people to account.
Hold them to account.
Okay.
So it's about challenging as well. But actually, I've got another point which maybe is a little bit related because
Step into the camera, Margot.
What Reese was talking about, and the kind of, what he's talking about and the whole conversation also says to me that, and to me and to Danny actually, that these things are not new. It's not been invented today. And actually history plays an important role in it. So Danny, do you want to come in and just give us some views about, history and whether we're learning anything? So the camera's here now.
All right. See, thing is with history, right, it's not a new thing. People say we can learn from history. We can't learn from it, because history's happened. We've not learned from it. History's still affecting us from today. It's a killer. History is killing. If people stop dwelling on things and just live up to the moment, take account for today rather than yesterday, you move on to progress, a better way of life. See, history is outdated. Look at history, all the wars, the slavery, the everything.
So you're saying, in a way, history is out of date?
History's out of date. If we've got to keep referring to history, we're not going to get anywhere. We need to broaden our minds, right? We just need to sit there, take account for ourselves. Racism is with everything, within all sorts, and that. The only way to stop racism is stop it there and then. All education is the key to things, and that.
So we've got some more points from outside. Do you want to come forward? Come forward. So Danny, what's your name, by the way? Saeed. So we've got Saeed directly responding to Danny's point.
Let's just get Saeed's point, and then what we're going to do. Guys, remember to social distance 2 meters as well, please.
Please keep yourselves separated so that you're safe.
That's for the online people. Don't need to worry about that. But the offline people do. So Saeed, come in, and then we've got people online that want to respond to all of this. So Saeed, give us your point, and then we're going to go to the online audience.
If you want to stop racism, you have to stop the politician first. That's racism, man. They're using against each other. That's what they do. You understand? So the local people, we can't do nothing. We just talk. That's all.
We can change it by talking.
No, we can't talk nothing. We need.
So the power is with the politicians. It's about changing the government.
We need a revolution. That's what we need.
Okay, we need a revolution.
Yeah,
says
them down, man. Really, man.
Okay.
Okay, let me go to the online. Let me just go to this online audience because they've been waiting.
Okay, thank you, Saeed. Online.
I'm just going to come to you, Amit, because you haven't said anything yet. Do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I completely agree with Saeed, really, the powers of the politicians. But my point is that a lot of politicians these days throughout the world, populist politicians, are using race and using divisions in race to further to gain votes. So I mean, we're being kind of manipulated. I mean, by these politicians who are using race to kind of divide and to keep power for themselves, control. So I think I don't know, maybe there's a responsibility on us to also not be so willing to buy into these things these messages that we're being told, by the politicians. I can't hear you, Mikey. I don't know if I'm still.
Mikey, we can't hear you.
How do you get the resistance to those negative messages? That's the question.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. All I'm seeing, and it's alarming and it's worrying, is how people like Trump, people like Boris Johnson, use these issues, use race to. I mean, what Trump seems to be doing is stoking up a kind of racial kind of.
Okay, so
battle to try and win the next election because.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. We have to kind of have a moment to reflect and say what are they doing? Are they trying to manipulate us here in some way?
Okay, so reflection, maybe reflecting genuine motives are. Okay, I'm going to put this out there. I know Will's been waiting and Kane have been waiting to speak for a while, but I feel like Danny wants to come back in.
Yeah, as I said, with history, right, we've not learnt from history. History's been there. It's there for us to set an example, but as human beings, we're very selfish people. We're all out for our own greed, our own needs. It happens on a daily basis. We can't change that. It's wired into our brains. What we can do is just try and think about what we're going to do. Myself, I can speak many languages in the world. I've got the most multicultural family going. I've got my own table at NATO and that. But it's just if we can look at ourselves, really to check ourselves, because in that way there would be no problem.
Okay,
the politicians won't be there.
In terms of some of the other things that people have
because
suggested,
it comes down to capitalists and all that. It's not that. It's how the river flows for it to go into the sea. Now, if it's a big river, it's flowing straight into the sea. But you can put locks, you can put banks, you can put everything there to stop the river. Now,
in this analogy, Danny, what is the river and what is the sea? I'm not picking it up.
Well, the river is the people, isn't it?
Right.
Say the sea's the government, or the sea's the earth. Right.
So you can, in a way, you can slow the people down. You can put barriers between the people and the government.
You can put barriers up to stop these people to stop their mind. Because look, look in the 1920s, the Hitler movement with the Nazis. Everything was building. It was building up. And then eventually it couldn't be contained. It was like a fizz. Shake up a Coke bottle, boom, 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 it explodes. The river burst its banks. But if you put things there to stop it happening, then it will not happen.
Yeah.
And that.
So that was...
Yeah, so let me just come to some of the online people that have been waiting patiently. Thanks, Danny.
Just before you do, I just want to highlight that there's a conversation happening here in the corners.
There's a lot of conversation going on outside,
So I will see if I can bring those conversations in. So go ahead.
See if you can bring them to Mike. That's your job in the way, Margot. Thanks, Danny. Let me...
Mike, you're on mute.
Will, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of points there. Sorry, I missed what you said before, but I'm assuming it's just sort of carrying on from Danny.
Yeah, it was just, the general chit-chat filling in between points, basically, so don't worry about that.
I think there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, we spoke a lot about politicians, and I do struggle to understand how we can have a conversation with our government when the leader of our government has made racist remarks and not, sort of owned up to that. I think the really interesting moment, especially with it being within the white communities, there's a lot of people looking at their own behaviour and making some quite hard self-realisations about some of their behaviour. And, and they're talking to people and moving forward. But the government doesn't seem to be taking all of that accountability. I think, a lot of people have pointed out that they haven't done that, they haven't acted on it. And going back to Danny's point of sort of history, I think actually there are a lot of lessons to be learned, especially from somewhere like Weimar, Germany, you know, and actually how the downfall of Ebert's government and the...
But, I mean, do we actually learn from history, though? Because...
But clearly not, because, it's repeating itself. And instead of it being Jews that are being targeted and victimised, it's minority groups, it's whoever fits the bill in the moment. At one stage it was Romanian immigrants, and then it went on to disenfranchised, more impoverished people and people on council houses. And I just think the government will keep going from one group to the next until we get a movement like Black Lives Matter, which seems to be holding them to account for actually what's wrong in society at the moment.
Okay, so some good points there. Will. Let me come to Kane. He's been very, very patient. I just want to say to those people, there's a few people out there online and on the street that haven't said anything yet. So do come in and join in. You're welcome to give your views. Even if you're not sure about something, you don't have to have this kind of definitive, oh, this is the answer kind of view. It could just be just a thought or something to throw in. Oh, Eva, you've got your hand up. But let me go to Kane because I've been building him up for ages and I'll come to you afterwards. Come on, Kane.
Yeah, firstly, Danny's beard is brilliant.
Yeah.
Really suits.
Yeah. Are you being beardist though there?
Oh, I really, like, it's a really good beard. It really suits him.
Yeah.
But there was a bit of side chat going on about Danny's beard. But I do think, I mean, I don't think people, I think the majority of people aren't inherently racist. I think the issue is that people do get hugely manipulated by, you know, the news they read, the stories they read, what politicians are saying. And I think, you know, it comes back to a point that was made earlier about calling it out, but it's not about just calling it out. It's about starting a conversation and starting a dialogue. I think it, you know, it comes from a kind of, people want to sort of simplify things massively.
Yeah.
I think the second you dig down, you know, I think it's quite I think it can be quite easy to change people's minds.
Yeah. Okay. So it's about having the right sort of conversation. That's what I'm going to take from that.
Yeah. I think it's not just about shutting it down. It's not about saying like it's about calling it out as wrong, obviously, but it's also about starting a dialogue about why someone holds a particular view.
Yeah.
You know, I worked for a charity, you know, an anti-racist and anti-discrimination charity that did a lot of work in prisons.
Yeah.
You had like a lot of people that had incredibly awful opinions, but it was quite easy when you start that conversation, you start that dialogue, you start to ask questions, just like children do. It's just sort of how.
So have that kind of childlike, why do you think that kind of thing, rather than being too judgmental with people.
Yeah, why is the best question, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, why is the best question? Okay, well, I'm going to direct that one. I can see the people outside, but Eva's not said anything yet, so I'm just going to bring Eva in, and then outside people come into this conversation. So, Eva, what have you got to say? And let me just ask you. Why? No, just say what you're going to say. That was just like a little joke, but it didn't go down very well, you know. You're very quiet there, Eva. Turn yourself up a little bit if you can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I've got the mic, it doesn't work well. I just wanted to ask, I've missed the beginning, so maybe this has been covered, but people are making a lot of claims about history with a capital H, and I feel very deeply uneasy about that.
Why?
Well, this idea of what is history, what isn't history, whether we, what we include, what we don't include, especially comments about forgetting history. You know, the classic thing about is that, you know, how do we actually confront what's happened before within social memory and talk about it in order to move on, as opposed to this idea of like history with capital H. A sort of,
what you mean? So it's kind of in the book, so it's kind of over, it's done with, kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
This whole thing of who writes history, what history is, what history isn't. So, you know, a slightly more critical idea of what history is, because especially when you're talking about erasing history, or let's forget history, or let's talk about what's now. In a way, that's like negating the reason that a lot of people are in the social situation they are because of social wrongs that have happened and injustices.
Yeah.
You just say, well, let's all forget about all that. You know, that's not what happened in South Africa. That's not what happened in Germany. People actually, you know, they had trials, they talked about it. And history started to be kind of revised and actually think of alternative ways to think about, you know, the sort of legacy of what has happened in the world.
Yeah. So history.
The main point is being just a little bit sort of cautious about how we use the word history. So
history is not just an academic thing that gets put into a book, but actually is a result of where we are now, where all of us are now, and our position, our power, our wealth, how we're perceived in society is all down to history, which is an active thing.
before about all our stories, all of the things that actually inform where we are. It's not a coincidence that I'm in the house I am now, with the job that I'm in now, with the privileges that I've had. And if you don't kind of address that, then you can never right social wrongs.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'm not going to go find out what your job is just yet, but anyway, we're gonna move it onto the street and find out what people on the street think of some of these ideas. So history is a very active thing. It's a result of where we are, you know, the jobs we've got, the wealth, the power that we've got, how we're perceived, all these things. Anyone outside want to come in on this?
Yes. Can you hear me though? First thing, cool. All right, we've got Danny just taking us a little bit back to racism and celebrities and. Yeah.
See, the thing is, celebrities, once they get this money, now they go back, I know we're not racist, we're not all that, we're for the people, we're down with the people. They're not down with the people. If they had the money and their status as they are now, you wouldn't find them living in areas like this amongst the black people, the minority people. Every other people, the poor people, they wouldn't be, they're all plastic. They are plastic, these celebrities, because they wouldn't be living amongst these streets here. That's why they're all off in Surrey somewhere in their little mansions, all £1 million houses, all locked away in their closed secure. They're not with us. I say get rid of the class system, and that's when you sort it all out. And everyone's equal. We all. There's no second class or first class there. We all breathe the same, and bleed the same. Yeah.
And on that note, I just want to bring in Reese again, because you were cheering to abolish class system.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I agree with aspects of what Danny says. So in terms of the celebrities needing to do more, they need to do more, especially with how we hold them in such high regard. They need to do more with their responsibility. But also, I feel like the main issue specific to the UK is class, because we get caught up in this idea of, oh, the people being oppressed are only minority groups, but it's not. It's like, if you look across the UK, the white community, the white working class community are at a similar disadvantage to the ethnic minority communities, yeah? Even though we do suffer more injustices in terms of, for example, police and stuff. However, I feel like it is a class issue mainly. Going back to what was spoken about in terms of what could be done, I feel like a simple one solution could be, for as long as I can remember, black history started at slavery, and that creates the sort of idea that, oh, black history starts at slavery. Why not forget that? Because we did many films, programs and stuff on that. Forget that. Let's teach black history pre-colonial times, pre-Columbian times. Let's talk about that in order to empower mentally the black community, and therefore we can rise. And I think it's going to be a generational thing. Going back to what someone else said as well about how education only targets the young children or the older generation. It sounds bad, yeah, but I feel like they're too far gone. And I can use examples of my parents and grandparents. Their mentality towards life and attitude towards life, and they're too far gone. It's hard to change. So I feel like we do need to focus on primary school children, secondary school children, in order to create generational change.
Wow. I also, Mike, we can't hear you out here. That's the only thing. But maybe you can hear you now. Channel 1 on mine is up. Yes, we can hear you.
Is that better?
Now.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. So
that was a point from Reese, but I kind of wondered whether the best way of learning history, because that's how we keep on talking about history, is through negative, not celebrate things necessarily, but it's always talking about oppression, repression, is always kind of caught in that bind. But there's a side conversation going on here. Danny, do you want to bring it in here? Danny, come on up, because The rules are, it's still a talkaoke, side conversations.
Oh, yeah, no.
Totally here.
No, I was just saying, the first successful black person in Britain didn't start recently, hundreds of years ago. It started about 1,000 years ago, 2,000, when the Romans was alive. It was a governess, it was a woman, and a governess, and she was a governess of Bath, and she was a millionaire, but she was a black woman as well. She was a slave, and then she got money, and then she had power, she had armies, she had wealth, she had everything under her control, and this was in Britain 2,000 years ago. So history, people were only just looking at a small part of history. You forgot history. Well, people were successful before colonialism.
Do you think people only want to see the history?
Australia with the Aborigines, they were going back doing their own thing, living a peaceful life. China, before the Italians started, Marco Polo went over, they had a great civilization. Egypt, back then, it was just history. People have only got so messed up since the 1700s.
Since way back then, yeah.
That's when greediness kicked in, and it was like last days of Rome. Everyone just had a jolly up, and yeah.
Anyway, Danny, do you think that people only want to hear the history that they, that kind of backs up their argument or backs up their position?
People only choose what they want to hear, really.
Yeah. Okay.
And see, we can hear everything, but we're not just listening. And
Okay.
we're only picking snippets.
Okay, well, maybe that's the same with this conversation today, but, I'll throw that open to you. We should hear from people that haven't said anything yet. You know how it goes with Talkaoke, so obviously, if you're not ready to say something, then that's absolutely fine and welcome, and I hope you're enjoying the conversation. But there's a few people online that haven't said a thing yet, so if you've got something to chip into this conversation, you're very, very welcome to. We're sort of talking about, in a way, we're talking about history and what history means now. Is it a closed book, or is it something that informs everything about our lives at the moment? Do we hear the right history in terms of races, classes, etc., etc.? That's where we are right now. So if anyone wants to join in, you're very, very welcome to join in on the conversation. It's getting very hectic out there. Asha's going to go, so she's just going to give us a final thought before she goes. So let's just hear that.
We're going to get some final thoughts from Asha, who was here.
Okay.
People is everybody's matter. White, black, everybody matter.
Step up to the mic, Asha.
Say that again, Mikey.
Step up to the mic.
Oh,
Yeah.
There she is.
White and black and any color and anybody's matter. People, they need just getting along. Life's too short. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Asha. Thank you. Let's give you a round of applause. Okay, so where are we going to go with this? Welcome those new faces, and I would like to say, in the exemplary way that that Asha has given a final thought. If you are going to leave, and there's no compulsion to stay for this whole session. To me, it's very interesting, and I'm going to keep going until the very death of it. But if you do want to leave, do give us a final thought before you go, and that is people out on the street or people online. Where are we going to take this conversation? Do we want to talk more about history? Do you want to talk more about power? Do you want to talk about, I guess, how to change things for the better? Do we want to talk about something completely different? It's up to you. Somebody give me a steer. Somebody, please. Where are we going to go with this conversation? Will?
What we're going to do, do you reckon theatres are going to reopen? It's a big conversation at the moment about whether or not COVID has caused the death of theatres as a whole.
Okay, well, that is a very radical kind of departure from the racism question. Is it connected? Is this history in the making?
No, but I just think I think it is a very wide departure from the topic we're on.
Yeah. Well, we can link it. We can link it because it is history.
But it's another case of government not giving attention to something that needs attention. And I think there's a lot of different communities, whether that's theatre or different industries in the country, that are suffering at the moment, that perhaps aren't getting the attention they need.
Okay. We got an immediate hand up from Kane on that one. Theatres closing, history in the making. Any views?
I think it will probably be quite a while until you can go and see like a straight up traditional play with an audience at the theatre. But I'm quite interested about how some venues, and I don't think it's just theatres, it's wider, it's restaurants, it's shops, have done some quite interesting work about rethinking how their buildings work and what they do. There's a venue that I helped set up in Streatham, and we became a food depot quite early on, which was like a very, very big departure from what we would do normally. But I think these, like, the best cultural venues are ones that are that have a civic role and have a community they serve. And I think, though you may not be seeing it as visibly, there are loads of venues and loads of organisations who are doing really kind of remarkable work, which isn't just making.
Are they going to be? Because I think Will's question was not so much about the value of theatre and how creative it is and how it can adapt, but just simply that it's getting closed down because the money's not coming in.
Yeah, but I think the ones that do adapt won't close down. I think it's part of the same. Yeah, I think there's a wider issue about the next government settlement and when that's coming, which looks like it will be next month. But I think there is a thing of like, we spoke about this, like the fundraising Talkaoke. I think it's the ones that are like, I think people have to adapt, or else you risk being a bit like blockbusters.
Okay,
like,
a bit, yeah.
London. You have to realise that things are going to be a bit like this for quite some time.
Okay, I've still got my Blockbusters membership cards, but anyway, that's irrelevant right now. Will, it's looking like a two-hander between you and Kane. I don't know if this is
what's going on there.
I don't know if anyone else is interested in this subject. And outside, there's like a storming debate going on. I don't know what it's about.
Well, can we hear what they're saying outside then?
Well, we can, but it's a little bit too chaotic for now. But Gary, I see you've got your hand up. I'm going to come to Tim first, who slightly beat you to this. So Tim, what's your point?
I guess I suppose it's the theatre having to adapt is clearly something that will ensure some of that survival. But I suppose it's whether it's going to affect the form in itself. Whether because those huge buildings won't be feasible, or the costs to maintain them won't be met by the tickets and all that kind of stuff. Whether the actual format in itself, there will be a part of theatrical format which won't exist anymore. I suppose that's my thought.
Okay, so let me go to you, Gary, as well.
Well, I could contribute to this about theatre, but I think the interesting thing is how well, you mentioned how does at the beginning, how does this relate to to Black Lives Matters or the issue of racism, and there's a really interesting point about what is important at this moment in time, isn't it? So what is important? Does it matter if the South Bank goes? Does it matter if Royal Albert Hall goes? Should people are involved in those areas will fight for their own areas, but talk about Kane and the thing that he's involved in. It's about things becoming more organic again, isn't it? That's where it is. I think the future of all of what we're doing is about it being more organic, and nothing being there in a kind of sense of meritocracy meritocracy to do with it now rather than a historical. I mentioned history earlier on.
So I guess the link is a kind of destruction of that kind of large institution, the big edifice of the institution, and it's a bit more organic. We've got applause from Kane.
I was wondering where that applause was coming from.
If anyone can do that, by the way, if you do give us an applause sign, if you work out how to put up your applause sign, I will press the applause button. That's the next added feature we've got now. Okay, well, I'm just gratuitously give you one as well. But Eva, I'm going to come to you, but I'm slightly concerned that we're getting two different discussions happening here.
Exactly.
So let me just go out onto the street. People on the street, what's going on out on the street? What's going on out on the street? Turn yourself up, yeah.
There is stuff going on the street. We were just having a chit chat about just general kind of young people in the area, because Reese is a primary school teacher. But before that, but before that, we were talking about, are people upset about closing theatres? And Kerry, who just whizzed by, but she couldn't stop. She said she doesn't care because she's got her DVDs.
Right.
What are you going to do? Well, come and air your view, because you, Loretta, you've got some views about closing theatres.
Yeah, we have to have a choice, goddammit.
Okay, a choice between what and what?
Choice of going to the theatre.
Okay.
Okay, so
the choice. We need the choice to go to a theatre.
I will revolt. I'll go out there with the marshes.
Yeah.
Okay, Danny, come here. You can't be thinking in a corner. Okay.
It ain't educating the young people. You need to educate the adults. Because the adults in this world can do something about it. The young children can't.
But isn't, like, say, theatre a way to do that? Isn't theatre a way to educate adults?
Sorry,
Isn't theatre a way to educate adults?
Yeah, it can be, because theatre can you express yourself. It's artistic, isn't it? Ballet, through whatever theatre plays, anything. So at the moment, everyone's missing all that, because there's nothing to do. All these people are furloughed, sitting at home, which lead to domestic violence, to suicide, to mental health awareness problems. It's just this half a year, it's really messed people up. It is because we cannot survive with. We thought we could survive with Sky television, internet, everything. We can't survive on it because we're bored.
Okay, so
if we did survive on it, everyone would be sitting inside. The virus would have been gone by now.
okay, so we need to do something to address the boredom, and that's, I think, it's a really big question. Let me come to you, Eva. You've had your hand up for a while. Luckily, it's just a virtual hand. What's your point?
So I think I took a bit issue of the sort of suggested elitism of the theatre. Now, maybe theatre just is elite and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's fine. But when we were talking about the sustainability of theatre, I wasn't thinking about the Royal Albert Hall, wasn't thinking about the South Bank. I was thinking about Theatre Peckham, where my kids go and do courses, and which really binds the community together and does a lot of work with young people. And it's one of the only outlets, one of the only places that they can do stuff. A lot of people from across the community with quite not many options. So rather than this idea that who cares about theatre, who's theatre's for, is like, theatre's actually for everyone, and there's lots of things that you can get from theatre regardless of who you are. So I think the two conversations are connected. Depending on, I think it's quite telling that when we say theatre, there's a very particular audience in there.
Okay, okay, there's a lot of applause. You're getting double applause for that, Eva. Let me come back to Danny, and then Tim. I know you've been waiting. I'm sort of, just because I feel like we need to keep this on the street audience there. I'm going to come back to Danny, but then Tim, and then you, Kane. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. See, the best theatre experience I've ever had was the Pink Elephant in Amsterdam, and that taught me a lot. So theatre is really needed for people.
Okay,
and it was,
all right. Well, we'll find out a bit more about
I enjoyed it very much.
We'll find out a bit more about the pink elephant later
elephant
on.
In Amsterdam.
We don't want to see your elephant impression.
Maybe we can discuss that later.
But let's go to Tim. You've had your hand up for a while, so Come on, Tim. What have you got to say?
To be honest, I think I was kind of just a bit of what everyone was saying. Really, it was just that the worry is that it will be those bigger institutions and the more the ones that have been long-standing in those spaces that will get support, and it's the worry that you'll have all the other spaces that won't be able to access the means to carry on. So there'll be like the expectation of adaptation and sort of additional resilience it will be even more so on those spaces rather than the larger old-fashioned whatever.
But I mean, is there an element of elitism in theatre? Because Eva mentioned it, saying there wasn't. But I mean, do you agree with Eva on that one?
So I agree that there's because like any form of cultural production is so embedded within the broader institutions in society. The mainstream cultures perpetrate all of those kind of different forms of elitism, whatever, and are also challenged in the same way through lots of other formats and lots of other spaces and types of working and bringing to life other aspects of cultural production. So I think it is, but in the same way that society is riven with that inequality,
Okay, so in a way, it's a reflection of society in terms of like the kind of institutions we want are going to have a better chance of surviving are the big ones, and that in a way is the kind of about the elitism of society as well.
Well, they will be more formally supported to survive. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean the other spaces won't survive. It's just that the mechanisms do that.
They've got to be more canny in a way. Okay, Kane, what's your point?
Mikey, why are you talking about elephants of elitism?
It's the elephant in the Zoom.
But I think I disagree about it being the biggest institutions that are the ones that are most likely to pull through. I think exactly those organisations. I mean, it comes back to the conversation we were having before we moved on to theatre. I think that there is a need for the venues that should succeed and should pull through are the ones that reflect the diversity of the UK and the diversity of the communities they serve.
But is that how it's going to go? Is that how it's going to go down?
Yeah, because I don't think there will be. I don't think unless you have a really clear sense of who the community is that you are supporting.
Yeah.
Be it Theatre Peckham and the opportunities it's providing for like local young people there, or another organisation like Cardboard Systems that's working with homeless people. Unless you're able to really genuinely truly show that you are making a difference, I don't see how you will be able to rally that support around you necessarily through. Like my hope is that actually there'll be a little bit of like that some of those bigger institutions will fall, where they don't, where they are just, they are just serving an elite group and they're not really thinking about how they move beyond that in any way.
Okay, we've got a lot of hands up. We've got a hand up outside as well. So Tim, Will, Gary, I'm going to come to you. Also, John, I see that you've started your video as if you're warming up to say something. So I've got you there as well. Just let me know. And Bablu, you want to say something as well. But let me first of all come to the street. Was there a point on the street? Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of to follow on from what Kane said, but it's not in relation to theatres. Guys, can you do me a favour? Just push, because basically the whole Black Lives Matter movement and the formal Black Lives Matter charity, they're not actually for the solution of this problem. Like, if you actually look into who funds Black Lives Matter, the charity, and look into the people who fund it, their sort of policies and who they're in line with, it's counterproductive. They're actually for the opposite of what Black Lives Matter wants to achieve. So just please, guys, don't stop donating to Black Lives Matter or the actual Black Lives Matter charity. There are other charities and other organisations that's actually trying to solve this issue productively. yeah, that's all I wanted to say. So.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Okay, so we've got hands up everywhere. I'm gonna just come straight to Bablu because you've not said anything yet. So sorry, the other people that have had their hands up. I'm gonna come to you shortly, but I always prioritise the new people. I'm a bit like that. So let me come to you first, Bablu. Have we lost? Where have you gone? Oh, you're there. Okay, yeah, go on. Yeah, go on, Bablu.
Hold on.
We can hear you. Or we could a second ago. Go on, Bablu.
Hello?
Hello. Welcome.
Cool. Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, just wanted to sort of share the project that we're doing. So Windrush Day began on Monday, and we launched a program for Tower Hamlets. So basically, we just want to sort of reach out to Tower Hamlets and try and sort of get people to engage with us and share their views of what the Windrush generation means to them. We've got a competition online as well, so if you go into traptunes.com, you could sort of find a bit more about that as well. So basically, we've got a sketch online there, which you could download and add your sort of thoughts into what Windrush means to you, and then submit that back to us, and then we run a competition. And whichever one's the most creative, we share a prize with them as well. And we just want to raise awareness of the Windrush generation is to this country as well.
Bablu, can I just ask you, what do you, because we've been talking a lot about what is the best way to address racism? Is it through the politicians? Is it through a wider understanding of history? Is it through just having more conversations? Is it through kind of challenging and calling out micro racist examples? There's lots of, what, in your view, what is the best way to address? Is it all of the above, or is it? Is there a particular thing that?
It's a bit of all of that actually. Talking is the best way. I've been sort of fighting racism for a long time. Racism covers all sorts of. It's just not white people against black. It's Asians against blacks. It's blacks against Asians. It's all sorts of ways. The way I kind of deal with it is having a face-to-face chat. That's the best way I kind of break it down.
Yeah.
Politics makes it worse, I kind of find. So I can't really trust them.
Yeah.
Doing things like this helps in a huge way because we get to teach each other what something's about. Otherwise, people have the viewpoint and they keep promoting that to their kids, and it just passes it on and on and on. I had a experience last week about this. It got quite bad, but through talking, I think it helped in a huge way. So at the end of the day, I think talking is the best way.
Okay,
and
so
we have to sort of call it out as well.
Yeah. Okay, so having that, in a way, that positive conversation. Where are we going to go from here? Tim, you've had your hand up for ages. And I know, Will, you've had your hand up, and Gary, so I'll come to you guys. So, Tim, what's your point?
So, sorry, we're just going back on the point about the theatres that will survive are the ones that are most closely connected to the community and able to most demonstrate their worth. I would absolutely love that to be the case. But, when you see how many charities have gone to the wall, not through the fact that they're not delivering brilliant services, but for all sorts of other reasons, that in fact, lots of the mechanisms through getting support, financial support and all that kind of stuff are quite, require... They're not as accessible as they should be, or that they ultimately often exclude or become exclusive towards other people. So they if it was the case that just through that connection alone that would sustain those organisations, that'd be fantastic. But I fear that's not the case.
In a way, you're saying it's not a meritocracy, and I feel like there's a certain suggestion as well that.
I also think though that it's if you start to talk about some of that cultural production purely in a kind of a utilitarian way, it can be a bit it's not the fullest way to talk about that work.
Okay, so it's not just about a service that's being delivered, but there's a culture is a bit more than that, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me come to you, Gary, because you've had your hand up for ages. I'll come to you and me, and then we'll go back onto the street, find out what they've got to say. Gary?
just wanted to say how
yeah, go on.
I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah. So my contribution about 10 minutes ago, whichever picked up on, was I just mentioned the kind of like elitist cultural entity, and it's really interesting what Kane went on to say about the South Bank and whether some cultural organisation should go. And what I was thinking a few weeks ago, I mean, the main reason why I brought it up earlier on was, well, somebody's brought this thing about theatre and the arts and what does that matter compared to what we were talking about, Black Lives Matter. I never brought in why it does. I mean, I'm from a community arts background, and I know. So it's about justifying the theatre that I've been missing is the Arcola Theatre, which is just an amazing cultural entity.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting that the National Theatre and the South Bank Centre and all those things came about through the Festival of Britain in the 50s. And Joan Littlewood at the Theatre Royal Stratford East argued that none of that should be spent on the big culture. It should all be spent on community theatre, on people that go out in the community, that the people. And she campaigned against the South Bank Centre being set up. And the thing about people who are working in the arts and artists, of which I know more in that field than anything else, because that is my background, there's so many of them suffering, and then there's so many people that are working for airlines that are suffering, so many people that are working in all sorts of walks. It's going to completely change, and what will survive is what is important. And
is that true though? Because it's sort of, I get the feeling from Tim that it's not quite that sort of straightforward, and have those people that work in communities got the right access to those people that are writing the checks? Because there seems to be a suggestion that is not just a simple case.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said what will survive is what is important. Sorry, that was a really naive thing to say. But I suppose what I was commenting on is what Iva said, and that what we really need it needs to be not about, and we need to support our individual friends who are struggling, but we really, really need to support the really, really important cultural organisations that are actually. A lot of the conversations about Black Lives Matter, but there's a question about class, and Danny, about a lot of stuff. Danny's really knowledgeable, actually. It's really quite fascinating listening to Danny. It's about working towards supporting us all working towards supporting the organisations that we think matter.
Yeah. Okay. So in a way, ideally, it would be those that are important are the ones that survive. That's for sure. I'm going to come to you, Amit. Then I know Will. I've seen you down there. Let's turn your camera on so we can get a look at you as well. John as well. I'm just putting it out there if you want to say something. I mean, we're sort of talking about what culture gets to happen and what culture, how it works. It's not purely utilitarian, says Tim. Amit, what's your point?
Yeah, I wanted to come back to the conversation about on racism that we were speaking about as well. And isn't one of the issues that really the world and society we live in now, the kind of capitalist system that we live in now, is all came directly out of and it's built off the top of colonialism. And that system is still kind of going in terms of the countries and the people in the countries exploited to sustain our kind of our system. So
there's a bit of history there for us about colonialism, and it's a continuity, is what you're saying, basically.
Well, how can we kind of begin to tackle the inequalities when these things are so kind of interwoven into how the world works in a way, and it's still a legacy of 100 years ago.
So everything really this time it is. Sometimes we've got an international audience, but this time it's everybody's. I think is from London, apart from Will, is from Birmingham, but it's the same really there. Everything about our city, about our world, is down to colonialism. So the history weighs quite heavy on everything that happens. Will, what's your point?
Before we do that, I think we've got some final thoughts from Kane and Eva before they go as well.
Have we got some?
In the chat, it's in the chat. So
well done for reading the chat. I've been mostly focusing on the conversation, so
you can
we got some final thoughts. All right, let's get some final thoughts. Thank you, Will. Thank you for being so considerate. We'll get some final thoughts, I think, from Eva. Do you want to give us a final thought?
It's been a really interesting conversation. I'm sorry I wasn't here from the beginning. I've got the germination of a thought about something to do with culture in history and using theatre to perhaps mobilise a different kind of understanding. So kind of history almost, but that's not quite a formed thought yet. So
well, I mean, I'm going to throw it out there to the rest of the people. Is theatre the way to unlock this alternative history that needs to be told, in a way, is what you're saying, isn't it? Or did I just paraphrase you in a completely distorted way?
Revisionist sort of thing. I don't know. I don't know if that's a goer, but I have to do the kids' bedtime. So sorry, I can't be part of that conversation. But...
Okay, well, thanks so much for your contributions, and you can watch the rest of it on Facebook or join back in again because we'll be going for another hour here. I'm just going to put a call out for somebody out there to get me a socially distanced drink because I'm running out of vocal cords. Kane, you're also going to go, so let me get a final. Thank you, Eva. We're going to get a final thought from you as well, Kane. Have you got to put the kids to bed? Unmute yourself. Just there we go. Hang on.
No, I'm doing a quiz.
Are you doing a quiz? Okay.
I'm
All
sorry.
Right. What's your final thought?
Yeah, I guess the arts, like at its best, it makes you, it provides you different perspectives and make you think about different futures. That's really poorly communicated.
No, it's brilliant. It's not at all poorly communicated. That's a brilliant response. And is art and theatre and culture at large there to give us these alternative viewpoints, these other perspectives that we so dearly need?
And I think as part of that, there's, you know, that though stuff might be a bit fucked generally, I think one thing that the creative people, both people work in the culture sector and beyond, is thinking about things differently and thinking about different ways of working and adapting.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got to keep on thinking about things in a different way, and thinking about and just keep on adapting, really, I suppose.
I'm going to go at that point.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kane. Thanks for your contribution as well. It's been a fascinating conversation. Will, I know that you've kind of like stepped down and you've kind of said...
I'm happy listening. You carry
people
on.
have got... But let me just... I'm just conscious that it's about 10 different conversations going out on the street and they're not even really listening. Do you want to come back into this? What's that? No. We've still got another hour to go. But is there anyone... Margot, is there anyone there out on the street that's got anything to say? And have you been listening to the conversation inside?
Well, I've been trying to persuade Norman all this time to come and talk about, because his question is like, who is building this big house? There's a big development here, but who is...
Maybe you could just point the iMac in that direction, just so we can see what...
I'll show you exactly what Norman was talking about. But I think, Reese, you've got a point, don't you?
Yeah, go on.
This is...
Okay.
So this is a big development, and we're just talking that, you know, people are not, you know, they have to have a lot of money to live there, basically. Because, yeah, these are luxury flats. So I don't know if people have any views on, oh, Norman, please, just wave, please. Anyway, that's him. He's over there, but he doesn't want to be on camera. But he's made a lot of really good points. Reese. So, okay, does anybody know about these flats being built here? Danny, can you talk about this?
Okay.
Yeah? Because there's a gentrification going on.
Some social housing and some private.
Private and social housing.
Okay, we can't hear you if you're not on the microphone, by the way.
Yes, Danny, you have to come closer.
Well, you've got private and social housing, but the private lot don't want to mix with us lot, which is, again, is class. They come into this area, totally chuck the history out, and they don't want to mix. If you say hello to them, they think you're going to mug them. It's just a total divide. They want their own little community. That's why they've done this, painted up these shops here like Balamori. It is absolutely ridiculous. And that it's blown it out of proportion. We don't need a brightly coloured street for people to live here, because at the end of the day, shit's still shit no matter what it is.
Okay,
And,
but I mean,
you can't do anything to it.
Does it have to be shit, Danny?
Well, rubbish is rubbish. This area will never change. And
Okay.
it's like Jeremy Kyle waiting room. That's all it is round here. But as I said, it's full of the working class people, the creme de la creme of people that will give you anything at a drop of a hat. Will go out their way to give you time. But now you're getting gentrification coming into the area, and they just don't want to mix. The hipsters or what have you, they don't want to mix with us. They're too snooty, and that. I say hello to anyone, but when you say hello and they start laughing at you, and that's what calls make people angry through here. And that they come here, right, through, they've seen the advertisements on false advertisements through saying advertising the West End, the city, and that. They're not advertising the local area.
Right,
Poplar's one of the most safest places to live in London.
They're advertising the
crime.
accessibility to other places in a way.
Yeah, it's just Poplar is actually one of the best boroughs to live in London, I think.
Yeah.
But everything is diverse. As I said, racism is nothing here, really.
Yeah.
And everyone's in the same boat. We've just got to pull into the ship together, really.
Yeah.
But, as I said, with the new developments going up, they're pushing it out. They're living in an apartment, but hotel lifestyles.
Right.
They're only selling to the flash with the cash.
Okay, Danny, I think you made your point very strongly.
And prices and houses have gone up.
Yeah,
So.
you made your point very strongly. Anyone got any response to that? I guess, and how does it fit in with the conversation we've had so far, which is all about culture and about arts and about alternative perspectives,
Well,
about
the culture
racism?
and art's gone if you just put all this out.
What's that?
The culture and art is gone from here. There
Yeah.
is no culture because they just come with their plain white paint culture. That's all it is. And that is there's magnolia culture. There's no art. There's no feel in it. To get the real feel, you need to be on the street, speak to the people, get involved with the people, go to the little community fete, speak to the people you walk past with the little gardens and that.
Okay.
Speak to them. Just don't lock yourself away and hide in a little bubble because you're not down with the people. And,
So, you know what, one of the other things I'm going to take from this that's been running through the whole thing is the power of conversation and how...
Conversation is the best way.
Yeah, okay.
A simple hello will break down barriers.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Any response to that, either on the street or on the, or out on the internet? Any response to that? Amit, you've got your hand up. What's your point? Amit, unmute yourself.
As Danny was saying, the gentrification there, kind of rich people moving into an area, elites kind of moving in, and it's they're I suppose they're the ones who are different to the rest of us when we're talking about the other. It's these elites, these the rich, and it's like it's a very it's like a very clever trick they play to get the rest of us fighting amongst ourselves.
Right.
In terms of, because as Danny says, we're all in it together, really, most of us.
Right.
And yet there's this trick played where division is sowed amongst us on the basis of race or some other arbitrary difference,
Hang on a sec, Danny, let me bring you in because you're not... I've got to turn you up. Go on, what are you saying, Danny? Sorry, Amit.
As you can tell, with the gentrification in this area, Margot's doing her best to get the people in from the people that live up there. They're walking past, snooties, laughing at us, thinking they don't want to mix with us. But
Are you sure about that, though?
Yeah, 110%. If this was like a little wine convention or somewhere up in Wapping with their little bread shops and cheese shops and that, God, they'd be in there like a shop. But because we're down scum of the earth, really, sitting next to a chicken shop, they want to laugh at us.
So you think the answer may be to bring those people...
Snobbery, that's what it's like. Mrs. Bouquet is living across the road.
Okay.
I kind of want to... Oh, thank you. I kind of wanted to ask Valeria, who kind of came and joined, and she has no idea I'm going to ask her a question. But Valeria, why don't you come to the microphone? And no, don't be scared, because I want to ask you something. I just want to ask you, because you live in this area now. Come forward. Valeria's coming.
All right, okay, we've got a new face.
No,
Hello,
it's fine.
Valeria,
so this is Valeria.
hello.
This is our online audience.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
So
give
Valeria,
Valeria a little wave, just so that she knows that people are actually listening to her.
some people are Hoovers apparently
Yeah.
as well on this.
Yeah.
So you've been living here for a little while in this area?
This area, it's been 3 months now.
3 months.
Yeah.
And what do you make of it? Because you originally come from Italy.
Yeah.
So how is it for you to be living here and seeing that some people maybe are more kind of upper class, don't want to mix? What do you think of that?
Yeah, to be honest with you, first of all, I really like the area. It's nice, it's cool, it's full of green, and actually the people there are nice, but what I see is that we are all from different countries, and I don't really see that they get along.
Really?
Yeah, I think that they prefer to stay, all of them, they want to stay with them.
So whatever country people are from, they tend to stick with those people of their own country.
What I can see in this area is full of Indian, Bangladesh, Asian people. Yeah, Asian people. I didn't really see any Italians or European generally.
Yeah.
But for me, it doesn't really matter because I'm very friendly. I like to be with everybody. But what I see is that the other people, they are not having my same ideas. So if I try, my best to be a bit more closer, I see that it's not the same.
So you're saying you're kind of curious about some of these communities, and you're kind of curious about all the different people.
I am totally curious about it.
Okay, interesting.
I love it.
Okay.
In all the respects, of course.
Yeah.
This guy's ready, yeah?
Okay, anyone else from on the street
Okay, so
want to
Reese
say
is
anything?
ready. So Reese is going to step into the mic if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because he kept meaning to ask something for ages. And we've got new people. Come and grab a seat. Just listen for a bit, grab a drink. Thank you, Valeria. Also, just make sure that you stay.
Thank you. Let's just give a
round of applause. You got a round of applause, Valeria. That's what you got.
Okay.
You got a round of
So,
applause.
Reese, up you come. Up you come, Reese.
Come on in.
Yeah, I just wanted to. It's a side point, but it goes back to what I was saying about education and trying to change future generations. I just wanted to say that I'm part of I'm going to be part of a community of teachers that's working on an anti-racist curriculum.
Yeah.
And if you guys wanted to, I don't know, stay updated, or I'd be happy to provide you with the newfound information or our thinking behind it. Just because you're part of the conversation now, I thought if you wanted to keep updated,
I think it's directly relevant. Definitely.
I could give you my Facebook or email or something like that.
What we do is we get it from Margot and we'll put it into the chat so everyone can see it in the chat and people can see it on the Facebook chat as well. So we just make sure that's linked in because it is vital, I think, to have these resources and connect people. Just ask Margot to do that, but also ask her if she can get me a drink as well, because I did mention it about half an hour ago, and but it never materialised. So
Margot,
this voice needs to be heard as well.
In the meantime, we also have new people joining as well, Kasia and Federico, but I'm going to allow them to settle in
Let them
first
settle down, exactly.
and listen. But I'll get you a drink, Mikey. So
Thank you.
Carry on.
What about people out there on the internet? Any thoughts about any of this conjecture? John, you've been very quiet so far. Bablu, have you got any response to some of these things that are being said? Anybody? Somebody? George, we've not heard from you all night, apart from at the very beginning. Nora as well, you've been quiet for a while. So, guys, somebody come in. Anyone got any response, any thoughts, any suggestions, any responses to some of the ideas flowing at the moment? Can I have a Diet Coke? Anyone? Someone pipe up. Come on, one of you people.
Can I come in at this point?
Yeah, why not? Come on, John.
Well, it's all been...
Yeah?
It's all been extremely interesting, but jumping from place to place to place to place and back to the first one and so on.
Yeah.
And therefore, I've really been wondering, do I jump in at this point or not? Can I go back to this business about history?
Yes, of course, yes.
Because I'd love to say something that joins up with what your last contributor was saying about a group of teachers.
Yeah, that was Reese. Yeah.
Yeah, seeking to influence the syllabus for history. I think that it's not only the syllabus, but also the method of teaching history. There's something that worries me is that many people will shy away from history because they can't remember the dates.
Yeah.
But the dates are actually relatively unimportant.
Yeah.
It's what was considered ordinary around an event and why the event was different, why it changed the way that things went on. If we think that history is simply examining and learning dates and names about how we got to where we are, this actually blocks out a lot of people from saying whether they think the place we've got to is a very good place or not. Now, a current massive issue concerns slavery.
Yeah.
It's still current because it's popping up all over the place. And the international estimates are that there are some 50, maybe only 40, but over 40 million people who are currently enslaved. So it's not a matter of the past, it's a matter of the present. If we look back to the days of colonialism, actually it's not about colonialism, it's about finding the capital that was vested in human muscles.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have muscles and you were a ruler, you could do very little. Well, of course, since the 16th and 17th centuries, when colonialism thrived and prospered all over the world, and this nation, to my shame, I must admit, came out rather on top. The aim of the game was to scoop up as many as possible of the muscular units to do the work that rulers then wanted done.
Yeah.
Of course, during the 18th and the 19th centuries, things changed because we now began to get power and machinery that could do the muscular work. As a result, for those things that couldn't be mechanized, and because of a change in the attitude towards slavery, what actually happened in East London is that our rulers, who'd done very well out of slavery and colonialism, and may I say, robbing Bengal of all it ever had, they turned to making slaves out of people who lived here. Therefore, the Aberfeldy, if you look back, constructed from 1862 onwards, was in fact a glorified slave camp.
Right.
And it wasn't till the First World War that this really significantly began to change. But if you're looking at history, how we got to where we are, now we move on to the arts and to culture. There was a great deal of art and culture practiced here, even up to the time that I arrived here, which was just over 20 years ago. There used to be a theatre group that practiced at the church hall, St. Nick's. It's totally gone. It's never, ever going to be resurrected, I would doubt. But there were plenty of painters, sculptors, musicians, all very working class people, but they were the cultural flow of good ideas from the past towards the present. But now we have commoditized the whole lot and we've made everything a paid for profession. I could go on for a lot longer, but it would get worse if I did. We need to think of history in those terms. It's not what is the history of paid for theatre and how can we go back, but perhaps with the prices being a little bit less. It is why did people make theatre for themselves in the first place? Did we need musicians who could write down music and handle dubbing sessions and mixing and all the rest of it? Did we need to wait for that before people made music? Absolutely not.
Right.
Folk music was tremendously strong And for a century, there have been massive efforts to try to keep it going. How much music is made here? What do we do to encourage people who feel that they want to make some effort towards the arts, towards the culture of their times? What do? We say, well, save up, rob your dad, and you can go to art school. I rather think this is falling a bit short of the demand. We need actually not only to rejig the history of slavery, but to rejig our whole attitude towards history and what we really want our communities to be. That's it. I'm going to stop there.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll give you a little round of applause there. Thanks for really summing up, I think, a lot of the themes that we've had tonight. And you're getting a round of applause out there. Tim's had his hand up for a long time. We've got some action on the street, Tim, so you have to wait 1 second.
There is some action.
Let's just go to the street first, and then maybe we can go over to you, Tim, because I know you've been patiently waiting. So
there's action on the street. So we've got Reese coming in on the point, but also just been making quick introductions of why we're here, what's going on, and we've had some really good responses. So hopefully we'll have more people attending more Talkaokes in the future, or just dropping in for a coffee in the afternoon.
It may be that next month we can actually go out onto the street and we can take this table out on the street, because the rules are going to change on the 4th of July. So we may actually be able to take the table out on the street.
So that's what we are looking forward to.
But we will see.
Then.
We'll see.
So in the meantime, I'm going to bring in Reese, because you actually have a point, don't you?
Reese.
Come closer to the mic.
Step up.
I agree with the majority of what John said. However, I feel like it goes back to my initial point of starting our history at slavery. Like, you literally just started that conversation at slavery when we had a history before then. I honestly feel like we need to stop talking about slavery. Just stop talking about it. We had a big, powerful, significant history before slavery. Why not talk on that? I feel like that's the issue.
Why are we focusing on? And we're focusing on, like, not just slavery, but all the really negative things in history, I suppose.
Yeah, but no one. It seems like the education system, the schools, we're not trying to research and teach what happened pre-colonial times.
I mean, just because you are a teacher, Reese, and I want to pick up on one of John's points, which is, could history be also not just be focused on different subjects, but be taught in a different way? Would that actually help people to get more into history?
Yeah,
if it's taught in a different way.
Yeah, I agree. But as long as we make it apparent, as long as we teach them the facts as well, we can't just teach them history in a different way and still miss the key bits of information that we're missing now. Because I feel like that's easily done. We can say, let's change the landscape, but we still won't touch on what needs to be touched on.
Okay.
So as long as we incorporate all the relevant pieces of history.
Okay. By the way, I'm not just pressing the applause gratuitously. When I'm hearing applause or seeing the applause icon, I'm hitting the applause button. So it's not me doing the applause, but all of you. But I'm trying to amplify it. Tim, let me come to you, because we haven't heard from you. You've had your, and Will, I know you've basically been waiting all night to talk. But so let me come to you, Tim, and then to you, Will.
I've got to dash off, so it's final thoughts. Really.
Okay.
But just following on from what Reese and what John said, I do like when there is, because I've really struggled with all the dates and all that kind of thing, and the way in which history was taught, and it only took until I was an adult to really connect with history again, through it being told in stories that had much more focus on the real impacts and the shifts of those particular events, and not so much some of the dates and things like that. And also when it does get when driven through the teaching of history is its connection to all the cultural sort of production around it, which is something for me that I find much more like I can connect much more with that. So
what do you mean, the production around it? Like
the cultural production around the history?
Oh.
So, yeah, the cultural expression that's around some of the historical things, so that I can more easily see the flow of those ideas, if you like, than in the story. So, just I suppose that's really
well. In a way, that kind of links it to this question about theatre and the vitality of theatre, but also the challenge of theatre to actually be relevant to some of these huge issues that we're trying to grapple with tonight. Well, great final thought. Tim, thanks for contributing. I'm going to give you a gratuitous, that is from me, this round of applause. We've got a point from out on the street, so we're just going to say goodbye to you, Tim, and we just can keep it going. But
Bye, Tim.
Well, let me just. Okay, we've got a point on the street. Come on, say
We've got
hello.
this young man here called, what's your name?
Emmett.
Emmett, Emmett, welcome. What's your point?
Yeah, I was just thinking about theatres because I think the people making this decision, the people in the cabinet and stuff, what they think of theatres, they think of like West End shows which have like 2,000 people in and you've got like a whole orchestra and everything. And those things that probably wouldn't be possible to bring back with any kind of social distancing at all. But they could have easily said that community theatres could start back, but they haven't done that because there's no reason why most community theatres are playing to much smaller houses, the much smaller casts, and the people are doing it for the pleasure of it, so you don't have to worry about paying their wages.
Yeah.
You couldn't run a West End show in a quarter house, even if you could fit all the orchestra and everyone in there. It wouldn't be economic. But why should the rest of us be deprived of theatre just because the West End can't operate?
Okay, I mean, I think Gary was talking about the Arcola Theatre. Last time I went to the Arcola Theatre, there were only 9 people there anyway, so they could easily socially
And probably about 3 on the stage.
Yeah, exactly. We've lost Gary and we've lost Noor. I don't know what to say because I have been trying to say to people, final thought, guys, before you go. And that applies to people outside as well. If you are going to leave, give us a final thought. But Will, let me come to you. Now it's your big moment.
It's actually going to be for a final
It's going to be, yes.
well.
There's no interruptions. There's nothing.
I'm not leaving, am I?
I think, it's been some really, really fascinating conversations, and I think there's a lot that I'm going to take away and have a think about. But I suppose the final thought that I want to leave with people is there's been a lot of conversation around theatres and their role and, the value of different theatres and which one should survive. And I don't know what the situation in London is, but especially in the Midlands and the more you go north, because of the arts cuts over the last 10 years, a lot of the larger theatres use their main performances to create revenue to put into community projects, to put into school outreach programs. So if those theatres go down, the entire arts community will collapse in some communities. And I think that will have a knock-on effect. But I do also think John had some really interesting points about what style of theatre should be used. I think we should reinvest in things like applied theatre. If there was different things like the forum that you provide, Mikey, with an opportunity for people to come together and discuss, it might create more social change and actually put us on the right direction.
Okay, so it's what type of theatre as well?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's really good stuff, Will, and thanks for joining. And it is one of the great things about this online-offline thing is that you can join because you're, as we know, but people maybe don't know that you're based in Birmingham. So it's nice for you to get local to Aberfeldy Street as well. So let me just come to, we've got Sophie has joined us as well. Welcome, Sophie. You're going to probably have to pick up the pieces because we've been going for a couple of hours and there's all sorts of themes. I will do a little recap very shortly, but first of all, let me just put it out there to the street. Is there any response from the street? It seems like there's any response from the street? Anything on the street there? No. Okay, so I'm just going to just quickly recap because Sophie has joined us. So this is Talkaoke. It's a free-form talk show where we talk about whatever we want to talk about. We started off talking about statues and statues toppling. Are statues that important? Is it a distraction from the main issues of the Black Lives Matter campaign? Is the Black Lives Matter campaign even the main campaign? We started talking about structural racism, but also about statues and about how are we celebrating the wrong people? Should we be celebrating living people and have a kind of modular, almost like a Mr. Potato Head statue which you change every month? So then we talked a little bit about that, and then we sort of talked about what did we talk about after that? Yeah, really about what the ways to address this idea of racism that's really deeply entrenched in our society and our history. how our history is kind of informs everything about where we are today. And should it be taught differently? Luckily, we've got a teacher on the street outside in the form of Reese. So he talks a little bit about history. Then we start talking about theatre. How do we feel about theatres closing down? And then I think different theatres got differentiated, and the importance, the relevance of community theatre, and whether that would actually be funded. And then also the question about how really capitalism is eroding everything in our society and stopping people from being producers and merely being consumers. And then I guess after that we sort of talked a little bit about I guess how we could reconfigure things in terms of culture, in terms of the theatre, and that's where we are right now. But we can talk about absolutely anything. Let me just, while we've got this kind of little recap, put the kind of challenge out there to some of the people that haven't said anything yet. Stephen, you've not said anything yet. I can see there's an empty chair there. I don't think that's an empty chair or anything. You've probably just gone to the loo. Hopefully you've got the thing up loud enough to hear it. Oh, there you are, Stephen. And Piotr, we haven't heard from you, or George, Sophie, you're new, so I don't necessarily expect you to chime in at this point. But yeah, that's where we are so far. Anything out on the street? Anything, what's going on out on the street? Yeah, well, you can turn me up there, Margot. You know how to turn me up. Turn up the main volume. Just turn it up. Okay, well, turn it up. Turn it to the max.
It is quite loud.
Okay, hello. Maybe I've still got volume. People online can hear me.
I only worry that because you sound nice.
Okay, so what's happening on the street anyway?
We were talking about.
Come into the camera as well.
Sorry, I was turning it down because there was feedback. So what's happening in the street? I'm just going to show you. There's a lot of different. Okay, can you hear me now? You should. Okay, so this is what's happening on the street right now. There's people socially distanced having chats. There's people here. Oh, hello everybody. And we were just talking about various things. For instance, theatre closing. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Are you theatre goers? Are you going to be very sad? Would you like to make a point about that? You don't. Come forward, because this is very interesting. I wonder what's going to happen to the prices of tickets and that kind of stuff. Maybe theatre will be free. Come forward, girls. What's your name? Margaret. I'm Margot. Snap. Okay. So Margaret, come to this microphone. Okay. Go, Margaret.
Hello, Margaret. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So this is the online audience over there. But yeah, so what do you think about theatre?
I like the theatre, but I can't afford it.
Final thought.
So you can't afford theatre?
Go to the theatre, no. So,
how much do you think theatre should cost? Or maybe it should be free?
oh, no, not free. No, I don't mind paying, but I'm a senior citizen, so I can't afford to go to the... Well, just about go to the pictures, really. But, yeah, so... I mean, I like the theatre.
So the pictures...
Turn up
Channel 2. Channel 2 is quite high. Mikey, we can't really hear you. You're cranked up to the max. I'm sorry, Margaret. This is very experimental.
Say what you got to say, Margaret.
Okay.
What's he saying?
What are you saying about being a senior citizen?
Yeah, being a senior citizen, I can't afford to go to the theatre. I go to the pictures because you get help with the pictures, so you know that's not too bad. But
so, which theatres? Like, what kind of? If you could go to theatre, let's say somebody gave you a ticket, they can go to any theatre to see any type of show. What kind of shows do you think you'd be interested in?
I like musicals.
Musicals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. Do you have a favourite one?
Can't remember now. I mean, I've been
probably
to
for you.
I've been to a few actually.
Okay.
And we used to go to the Palladium quite a lot
Oh my
when
days.
we were younger.
So that's in central London.
Yeah. Well, my mum used to get coaches up for people around here.
Really?
Yeah. And she used to get the coaches up and get tickets to the theatre, and we'd all go to the theatre.
So your mum was quite involved in theatre, it seems.
Well, only because the coach, she managed to get the, well, she knew, the coach person knew my mum, and he'd phone up and say, I've got a coach spare and some seats, would you like to go? And
So
would you get it to go? And she used to. But then we used to, I didn't live around here, we lived in Oban House, across the way.
Yep.
We lived there, and she used to go around and collect money each week to pay for the ticket, and then we'd go off to the theatre.
Okay, so what's happened now, do you think? Why is it not happening these days anymore?
No, people don't do it nowadays, I suppose. So, no, but that's a different community. Yeah.
In what way is it different? People don't like theatre so much these days, or? Sorry, what's your name? I didn't ask you. Julie.
I'm Margaret Stace.
Okay, Julie, nice to meet you. I'm Margot, and there's everyone else here. So Julie, so you say community has changed. Maybe they're not so much into theatre. In what way?
It wasn't that. Nan used to be able to sort of. She was very much a people person, so she could then go round and they'd do lots of different things. It wasn't just the theatre.
No.
There's the old-fashioned East End Beanos and things like that. So, you know, Nan would organise it and, as you say, get the coaches and everything. And people would then go on board and go off places and, you know, just get a different side to life. You know, city life's one thing, but she used to be able to provide a different kind of life.
So now with the COVID situation, there may be a risk that theatres will kind of close down. But maybe that's fine because people aren't going anyway.
No, I don't think so. I think the theatres are vibrant, aren't they?
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
know they're expensive, and that's what
Well,
I'm just
they're always
alluding
full up,
to.
aren't they? When you do go, I mean, when I have been.
The musicals probably in particular.
Well, no, I've been to other things. My son takes me. He takes me to theatres and different places, and they're all full up, so, yeah.
So do you think that maybe people fight to keep the theatres open? And
I would think so, yeah.
They need to rationalise the ticket costs. don't they? I mean, and there are lots of people in London that can afford high prices.
You get half price in Leicester Square in Westfield.
Loretta, step up to the mic if you've got something to say.
Just be careful of the social distancing as well.
And can you raise the mic as well? Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to point, don't worry. We've got it.
Raise the mic and point the actual tip of the mic into the right direction because otherwise
you can get
people
half
can't
price
hear.
tickets in Leicester Square or Westfield, and they've got different shows on.
But what's the chance of my auntie being there, particularly with the virus?
Oh, that's true.
You know, it's like not going to happen. The only way she can go is to Christie because she's avoiding public transport.
I don't even get on a bus. I walk to the market. Yeah, yeah.
But in the future, it would be nice to be able to know that that's available. So lack of maybe publication is a thing.
So how are we going to get these tickets to the right people and the right places?
Exactly. You've got to analyse your audience.
Let me just come because we've got someone online that's got a point. So let me come to Bablu. You've got a point here. So we're going to go to the online audience now and see what they've got to say. Bablu?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I don't really have a point about this topic. I was about to go now, actually. So I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. Great concept which you guys have here. It's been really, really great to hear your thoughts as well. And hopefully next month we'll, get a chance to showcase the film which we have and see how you guys feel about that as well. But in regards to the whole conversation, it's been really, really great, and just keep that up.
And when are you showing your next film? Have you got a date for that yet? Or?
It's going to be maybe mid to late July. It's a really community-based film about Thai Hamlets as well. So hearing you guys' thoughts about how you guys feel about South Asians and Black people and all sorts will be quite great. It's great to hear. Hopefully we'll announce that soon. But yeah, we'll hopefully collab with you guys a lot more and see how we could go and bring people together. But that's the main thing.
Okay, thank you, Bablu. Thanks for joining in as well. Have you got anything you want to throw out there to the street or to the web audience as just a little provocation before we go? Before you go, sorry.
To be honest, I know you guys are talking about theatre and all sorts and everything. We've got a government who doesn't really have a clue. So when you've got people in charge who don't have a clue, how we meant to work out what's going to work out and what's not, you know? If we had people in place that made sense, then at least we have a pathway to go through. But sadly, we don't, which is why we're all kind of not sure where we're going to go when we go to the theatre, into the gym, or go back to school. You know, there isn't anything in place, which is why we're all a bit scared. And unless our government steps up and does something, things are not going to change, and that's the sad part. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a really good. That's a really good point there from you, Babalu. Let me just come to Sophie because you've not said anything yet, but let's just get at least the final word from you because you've got to go as well.
Yes.
I don't know how much of this you've caught, and I've tried to sum up what we've been through so far. But do you want to just say an initial and final thought all in one go? Did it make sense? Any of this?
It does make sense. No, thank you so much for the recap. It was really good to hear and very interesting to hear about the statues and about the BLM movement. And I just think it's really important right now to really understand what are those burning issues and how theatre can respond, particularly in a situation where we can't really have the venues back, but how can we bring theatre into communities? So I think that's really interesting to carry on these conversations, because I think theatre is such an important vehicle in terms of reflecting what's happening, you know, giving that space to the public to be able to have that dialogue and these discussions of the important matters, because just reading the articles or watching the news every day is just not enough. You need that space, and you need, you know, that space of imagination and reflection, and help crystallize those ideas and channel it into something positive. So I think these are really, really important questions that you're raising, and it was very interesting to hear the lady on the street. Really interesting, but reassuring as well, because it feels like the public still feel that theatres do have a part to play. And the point about the government is, of course, crucial, because without government support, it looks like so many theatres are going to shut. So yes, just. Oh, sorry, can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I've turned myself down. We need the government support, but in a way, we don't really have it. So how do we sort of keep going? Because we can only do what we can do. We've heard a lot of really interesting views from people, and we just got to run with what we've got. So is there a way to just keep going without the government support?
It's such a tough question. I guess it also shows the importance of, I mean, of course, with that lady speaking, Margaret speaking, it's clear that some people are unable to enjoy theatre online, or, you know, bring that, open up that space, open up that discussion digitally, like what you are doing. I think it's really interesting, and bringing those two spaces together. But I mean, I think clearly theatres have to think what you were doing about the necessity to really understand the digital tools and how to reach those audiences, because we don't know. I mean, last night I was just hearing on the news that kind of the experts and the scientists, they are already talking about the pandemic being with us until spring.
What did you say?
So yeah, I mean, we need to think about it, that it might be constant kind of smaller lockdowns, and we have to understand how to work offline, online, digitally, bring the two together, and reach out to the public. I think if we can reach out to the public and have donations and sell tickets online, then it's probably possible to survive. But it's difficult.
So, I mean, in a way, we've got to be just as creative as how to keep going as we are within the theatre as well. Okay, well, I mean, that's a great thought, and thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
Well, no, I mean, and if you want to watch the rest of how we got to this point, it is also available on Facebook. If you just go to the People Speaks phase, and you can People Speaks page, and then you can see how we've got there. But thanks so much for giving your bit. Is there word on the street? Is that what you're saying, Margot? Is there stuff happening on the street there that you need to report on? Thank you, Sophie. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Is there stuff happening on the street?
Finally decided it's time for him to go, but he's got a final thought.
No,
And he was only having a burger a couple of hours ago.
I didn't mean to come to. I stumbled across this, but I'm happy I did. I enjoyed the conversation. I felt like it was productive. Let's just not forget the issues going on in today's society. Just keep trying to continue to fight this systemic racism, seriously, because it's a serious issue. And I know the conversation hasn't just been about racism, it's been about theatre and gentrification and stuff like that, but I want to remind everyone, let's not lose track of the issues at hand.
And before you go, Reese, have you mentioned about the CV, the curriculum initiative that you're doing with the teachers? Because maybe it's worth putting out there. So we've got a record of it, we don't forget, and if that kind of jogs people's, you know.
So I work in the school as a teacher around the corner, and Tower Hamlets, one of the unions for Tower Hamlets, they're putting together a collective of teachers to create an anti-racist curriculum. So I'm going to take part in that meeting. I can't remember the exact date, but once I take part, I'll be happy to forward the information, the results, to get maybe another conversation to see whether that is actually effective or not. So, yeah, I will go through the organisation through Margaret, and then.
We're going to be here at the same time next month, and hopefully we'll be able to go outside, and we're going to maybe expand this Talkaoke table to put some other tables around it. But we're going to be gradually back to where we were before. So we're going to be revisiting, I'm sure, some of these subjects. Cool. But thanks so much, Reese, for getting involved.
Thank you for stopping by, and let's definitely. Yeah. We're doing like on the streets.
And have a good evening.
Thank you, Reese.
Okay, so where do we go from here? We are actually reaching our final 15 minutes anyway, so it is going to be time for final thoughts here. I also encourage some of those people that haven't really said that much so far, like Stephen, you've mentioned the thing about supporting local theatres, and maybe now's your time to actually come in and maybe say a bit more about that.
Yeah, it was, yeah, you can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
It was an event I got invited to today, coincidentally, or maybe it's not coincidental, maybe it's a thing that's going on at the moment that's resonating with you, but I will find that event in a second, excuse me. It's called A Night at the Theatre, Saturday the 4th of July, and I put the link in the chat. It's you assemble at your local theatre at 7:30, wherever your local theatre or arts centre performance venue is. There's more in the event if you're on Facebook, if you look at that, and I put the link in the chat. I don't know much more about it myself, but I just thought I hadn't said anything else tonight, so I thought I'd say that. Are you still there? Whoops.
Oh, sorry, I've turned myself down. Sorry. Let me say that again. So I just wanted to ask you how the question about theatre and culture and what survives and how important it is links with this question about racism and class and all of those things. In your mind, is there a connection, and how are those two things linked? Is there a link?
I think theatre can get through to you in other ways. You can talk through things to the cows come home at an intellectual level, but theatre and the arts, they reach you on other levels, and I think that can be equally as persuasive or more so. They can address issues in a different way. So that, basically that. I can't hear you again.
I was saying it goes in a more sideways way rather than being so direct.
Sideways, perhaps, or just in a different, it approaches you in a different way. Yeah.
Okay.
Resonates in a different part of your mind, in your soul, in your heart. Yeah.
So it's not just that kind of rational, straightforward element. It's a bit more kind of, it addresses more parts of your mind and heart in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, have we got some word on the street? Was Naz there saying something out there? Was there a point from out on the street, or should I come straight to Ellen?
We do have a point. We're just having conversation. It's not about like formulating.
Okay.
Come on the mic, Mike. It's Ahmed, isn't it? Ah.
No, I talk about.
Come to the mic. Step forward to the mic. Hello.
The people who's making the buildings and.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
What do you call the
flats?
The flats between the council flats and the private flats. How they're making the difference is because, firstly, I'm here, and Talkaoke used to have town council. They used to have a flat, but they were just normal standard flats. Now, Talkaoke come along, they bought the place and they're building it. So, well, they're giving though some portions to the council, 20% or 10%, I don't know, whatever. But those ones are just a box home. But one they're selling to the private, selling to the private customers. Which called middle class people. They're doing exactly made to measure what they want, how they want. If they want a wall to be in a concrete, or if they want a wall to be plasterboard, or whichever way they want, they do it that way. So they're actually creating the dividing. We are middle class people. We live this way, or we don't eat that. We don't associate with this. Well, this place they're going to break in for a year time. They're doing fantastic, lovely. But what's the theory behind there?
Exactly.
What is it?
And what do you think is the theory behind
it? Because if everyone knows it's dead and buried. This place is no shops open after 6 o'clock. Why is that? They have given the people to run the shops, but no one operating after 6 o'clock. How could you make this lively street? Because nothing there. Look, it's what, 8 o'clock? Only me open, no one. I know you guys always there until 8, 9, 10 o'clock, but no one else there. You know what I mean? So exactly. So if the people want to come and do some shopping or anything, they will not come here because there's nothing there.
But
intention is there to make money. That's all. Yeah, exactly. That's what their whole intention is. They just want after money. They don't care about people. That's where racism comes as well. Because when you have a lot of money, you don't care about people. You don't care about race. Because you have money, you can do whatever you want. You just treat people like. I see it in my own eyes. People come. I've served 100 customers a day. Yeah. There's a good customer, there's a bad customer. People come in and chuck the money like that. It's like, you're just stuck in there.
And you know what's what.
You know what's right and what's wrong.
In a way, you're the hub really there. So, you connect with so many people. Let me just, talking about connecting, let me just connect with Ellen, because she's had her hand up for ages online. So, Ellen, what's your point?
My point was it's going to be quite different in a way. Because,
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry. It's my job to link it all together and make it seem like it's the same conversation. So don't worry about that.
Well, no, what I was going to say is that I think in the last Talkaoke session, my fridge had broken.
Yeah.
And then anyway, I think Stephen or George said that I should turn it upside down. So
Yeah, they both did. Yeah.
Exactly. I turned the fridge upside down, and it's been working ever since.
Okay. So.
Thank you. Thanks for that tip.
Okay. Was that the full point there? Was it responding to any of the things that have come up in this conversation, or was it just yeah?
Yeah, there's definitely been some interesting points to this conversation. I was tuning in a bit on Facebook as I waited to enter. But yeah, I think I've talked about the subjects quite a bit, and I'm kind of a bit exhausted.
You're talked out on what subject you've been talking about a lot.
Well, you know, the themes that have been brought up today.
The racism,
Exactly,
social racism, education, history, culture, all these things.
Exactly, you know?
You talked out from it.
Yes.
Okay, is it that you need a fresh perspective, or is it just like too much conversation?
You know what? It's just a bit overwhelming because things like racism are in every aspect. Every single day, you know, you realize that, oh, bloody hell, you see like a name of somebody from back in the day and you think, oh my God, may they have owned slaves? It's just...
It's here we go again kind of
it just
thing.
exists in every aspect of society. So I just need a break.
You need a break.
I need a break.
You need a break from society, basically.
Yeah.
But okay, but that's interesting as well. Could we have? I mean, Ellen, I should say, is part of the People Speak team, and we have a lot of chats, and it's all the race in a way. I mean, personally, I think it's a good thing that all these things are coming up now.
Yeah.
But I can see how it's a bit overwhelming. It just goes on and on and on. But let's go out onto the street, and because I think there's some word on the street there. Although I think we've lost your camera there, Margot. No, we're back again.
Word on the street.
Let's hear what the word on the street is.
Yes, you lost my camera because I'm only on 10% battery, but that's fine because we're finishing in 5 minutes. So we are doing the final thoughts now, guys. We've got Danny here, and everybody needs to do their final thoughts. We're going to start with Danny. Danny, what's your final thought?
Yeah, well, what I say is everyone can just learn to tolerate each other, broaden your horizons, because all this lockdown has made us think a lot more. Yeah. It's made us be within our own minds. Now, since we're coming out, see if we can keep what we learned in the lockdown from treating people more nicely. Just take away the values what we learned today or just throughout time. Just love one another, they say, but I'm for everyone, so yeah.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm going to pounce.
Good night all. I'll see you all.
Oh, you get a round of applause. That's amazing. We're still going to be here, but Ahmed, can I hear your final thought? We're just going to do all the final thoughts, yes, from the outside.
Yeah, I
See you later, thank you.
We've got the theatre of the absurd with our government and things killing 65,000 people in the first wave. We have to wait 2 minutes in the second wave and stuff. So I think the rest of us need to do what we can to support real theatre on the stage. Do this thing, go along on Saturday, and it should be independence. That's the independence of people, the independence of the theatre, and particularly the independence from this sort of like... I would like to remind you of someone a few weeks ago, to my last thoughts, a guy who couldn't see, so he thought he'd go for a drive, and just completely broke the rules that everyone else is meant to be keeping. And he's the one back in the thing calling all the shots. So I think we need a revolution right now. Burn down Cummings, burn down Downing Street, burn down a lot of them.
That was Emmett. We'll do sign-ups for the revolution, the mailing list soon. Ahmed, do you want to just give us your final thought? And we're ending. You can say anything. Anything you want.
I think you and your other colleagues, they're doing a fantastic job here. And I mean, fantastic. And I mean, keeping the street live, and always something there.
We're always doing in partnership with PFC. You sustain us.
I'm always there. You're free to come have a coffee or tea, whatever you want. No problem. On the house.
Oh, bless you. Thank you for selling coffee, because you weren't always selling coffee, were you?
I always sell coffee.
Oh, you did? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Final thought? Oh, we're running out of time, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good show, yeah?
Thank you so much. Okay, final thoughts from Loretta or Andy? Okay, Loretta, just quick final thought.
I can see everyone. Hi there. And Amit, I'm not happy with you. I've got your hat.
May that be a warning to you, Amit, and anyone else. So I think this is the final thoughts from all of us here. Any other final thoughts, Andy? I think we're done here. There's some gentlemen over there.
Your final thought. I'm going to come back for your final thought at the end.
Before I
But let's just get final thoughts from the online audience as well. I'm going to come to people like Piotr. You've not said anything yet. Have you got a final thought? Piotr, have you got a final thought? Is not there. George, have you got a final thought?
I have. Great show. Well done. See you next time.
Is that it? Any response to any of the questions, thoughts?
Yeah.
I was elsewhere, but I'm very pleased that Elam's fridge is working again.
Okay, all right. So we're making progress here.
Yeah. I second everything that the gentleman said before the last one, in regards to the guy that couldn't see driving a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And he's the same one that's telling us all what to do. I agree with everything he said.
All right. We need I did say to the People Speak team, we need a kind of revolutionary Marxist overthrow sound effects. But it never happened. It never materialized. I suggest, anyway, that's a whole other story for the debrief meeting. Let's get any other final thoughts? Amit, John, Piotr, come back to you. Have you got a final thought? Stephen, final thought? No? John, have you got a final thought?
Yes. Yes, I'm a little uneasy about the instant revolution, but I do think that we should come back together again as soon as possible and not later than 1 month.
Okay. Well, we're going to be doing July the 30th is the next day. Any reflection on any of the things that people have said before we all log off?
What, from me?
Yes, from
you. I think that, I mean, there's ample evidence that we do need some kind of a revolution, but I'm really not sure, I'm not very happy about the idea of burning down Downing Street first. I think we need to do it with the thoughts, the actions of people in communities like our own, rather than pull down everything and hope that somebody will come forward and tell us what to do. We've had that for many years and it doesn't work. We need to do it for ourselves.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, I was muted. Sorry. I said, do it first here in Aberfeldy Street and then let the world learn.
Yeah, well, I like that. I very much agree with that. I mean, there's plenty of life in Aberfeldy Street.
Okay. Let's get some final thoughts. Amit, have you got a final thought? You're thinking still, so I'm gonna put it out there. Anyone else? Piotr, have you got a final? LM, have you got a final thought?
I think Amit was muted.
I was muted. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Amit, have you got a final thought?
Yeah, what we were talking about structural racism, the conversation we're having, and there's something I was reading just now, an article in it saying the term white supremacy may invoke images of hooded Klansmen burning crosses, that it actually refers to an entrenched system of racial domination that once justified colonization and slavery, the legacies of which still shape economic, political, and social orders, particularly in the West. And I think, that's kind of sums up my contribution, what I was trying to say.
Yeah. So
it.
white supremacy as a force is still there, and it's not guys in pointy hats.
It's not just KKK. It is kind of the system we're in. Yeah. So I think there's some truth to that.
Okay.
Agreed.
Have you got your final thought, Ellen? Let me just give a round of applause and a ting to Amit. Have you got a final thought, Ellen?
Yeah, no, I just agree with what Amit was saying about, white supremacy. What's interesting, though, is that, a couple of months ago, people would have been quite uncomfortable with using that word, I feel, and hearing it. But people seem more open to sort of understanding it and trying to understand where they kind of sits in it. So,
I mean, what do you think has led to that? Is it just the BLM campaign, or is it something about this reflection that being all locked down has kind of given people to be a bit more open to, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? How's this happened?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of things, really. I mean, the fact that we are all at home and there's, this is a key thing that happened. What happened in America with George Floyd, that definitely sparked a lot of things and made people realize that, it's the system, that is racist. Of course, individual police officers are racist, but there is a system that disproportionately, murders, black people in America. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of sharing of information online, and I don't know. I mean, Yeah, it's just, my head is starting to spin again.
Okay, well, no, that's. I mean, I don't know why you feel like you need to give more. That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's have a round of applause and a ting for Ellen. And we're doing the final thoughts. Piotr, I'm going to put it out there for you again.
Hello. Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm a little bit tired. I don't. It's hard for me to make something useful for my head today. I would say as my final thought, if not revolution, I believe evolution would bring some. Evolution will bring the change anyway.
Okay, but how do we evolve? How do we evolve and actually push this forward?
Actually, to be honest, reading the book *Sapiens*, I'm not sure if anyone read this, and from the book I understand as wherever we put as a sapiens, Homo sapiens, we put the food, all around us started disappearing. All different species started disappearing. To be honest,
so in a way, we need to just like disappear rather than evolve.
Probably, but I think we are still closed within borders of our countries. I believe when we are like in the UK, in London, we have multiple cultures, and we need to get out from these borders of the countries and start to be more open-minded.
So it's not just the geographical borders. There's actually borders between us. Maybe in London. Okay, let me get a final thought from out on the street. Margot, have you got a final thought, or has anyone else out there got a final thought?
I don't. Well, I could have a final thought, but I think we've been through all of the final thoughts. Hello, girls. We're just doing a pop-up talk show. You can say anything you like on the microphone to people if you want, or you can just sit here. That's also fine. But I think tonight has been really good. Stephen, I think I saw you when I was on the run. I wasn't running away. I was just having a run. Having a run? No. I was just running, a jog, is what I said. No, I just wanted to say to Stephen, is it possible that I saw you in Queen's Road, Peckham?
Yeah, I live just off Queen's Road.
Then maybe we're neighbours.
Yeah. I think there are at least 2 or 3 of us from Peckham here.
So maybe I'll see you soon.
There's a chance to break down the borders there as well, I should say, with my mic up. Is that your final thought?
I think that's my final thought. It's been really good. There's been lots of people passing through and lots more people kind of being interested as well in what we were talking about. There's some new faces to the table, but unfortunately we're wrapping up now. So I think that's it from us. No, I think that's it.
I just want to say thanks to Rick, who's been doing all the visuals and tweaking all the knobs and doing quite a lot there in the background to make this happen and just to make it all, you know, just one order above the total chaos. But thanks to everyone that's taken part as well today. It's been a fantastic session and I really enjoy it. Just say hi to those people on Facebook. We didn't really have a chance to engage. If there was any chat on Facebook, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to actually have a look at that.
Okay,
but just thanks everyone who's watching here, who's contributed on Zoom, who's out on the street, and who's watching on Facebook. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. And remember, stay safe, stay socially distanced, and hopefully we'll see you out on the street this time next month.
See you later, everybody. Thank you so much.
See you later, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.